Now, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov is in South Africa for a working visit. He has met his South African counterpart, Lavrov and Pandor. The duo discussed bilateral relations and other key events. The visit, which is his second to the continent since the beginning of the war in Ukraine, comes weeks before the two countries hold naval drills alongside with China and South Africa. The talks between Lavrov and his counterparts took place in Pretoria. Lavrov said that Russia favors South Africa's representation in G20. He further added that Russia will give more scholarships to South African students and that the two nations will hold summit in St. Petersburg this year. Now, for more on this development, we are being joined by our correspondent Kalden Onmu from Johannesburg. Welcome to the broadcast, Kalden. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov is in South Africa for talks with what he describes as one of the most important allies in the continent. What is the latest that you have for us?
So, Ananya, Russia, the foreign minister's visit, this is the second such visit, as you mentioned yourself, and this is the first stop visit, South Africa being the first. He's going to go to other African countries, neighboring African countries like Botswana, Eswatini from here. Now, this visit comes at a very crucial and a critical time when South Africa is being watched by big powers. South Africa has been slammed not only by Western countries for not taking a stance on the Russia-Ukraine war, but also its own people at home. Civil society organizations and political parties are putting pressure on South Africa to say you cannot side with Russia. And by inviting or hosting Russia's foreign minister Lavrov now, that South Africa has been put in a spot. That is what some of the experts and some of the opposition parties have been saying. Also, to add on to what you just said in your introduction about hosting a military naval drill between South Africa, Russia and China, that has also put South Africa in a tight spot. However, it looks like South Africa, as well as it's having its bilateral talks with Russia, they are not phased at all. International Relations Minister Lavrov and Pandor says this is strictly on bilateral talks. They are going to be speaking on how can Russia and South Africa better its relationship despite the ongoing war in Ukraine. As you mentioned yourself, Russia as well as other Western countries, they have been scrabbling on the African continent to energetically woo African countries for their partnership in the world in terms of economic trade or bilateral trade. And Russia now coming on to say, we want to further our ties, strengthen our ties with South Africa is going to put South Africa definitely in a spot. And also Russian foreign minister stating that they are going to look at increasing the number of scholarship of African students, as well as they're promoting or in favor of African countries' representation in G20 also speaks big for itself. Now, Russia also doing its South Africa inviting Russia and China also to do its drill in KwaZulu-Natal next month for 10 days has also had many people and also many countries talking and why are they doing now. But also, you must look into the terms of what Russia they're trying to do. Russia is as if they are trying to say, look, we are not, isolated internationally throughout. No one is isolating us. African continent, they are still there as our friends. We are still there. We still have access to military equipments. Look at us. It's like, some of the experts are saying that, we can do whatever we want. And we still have friends with African continent. And also you must remember that the ties between Russia and Africa go back a long time, specifically if we talk in terms of South Africa. Russia under Soviet Union has helped South Africa fight the apartheid regime. So historically also South Africa shares a very strong ties with Russia. So this but comes at a time also tomorrow when we are told there is a finance minister from the United States of America visiting finance minister of South Africa. So, it's all like I just said, scrambling for African nations, scrambling for South Africa. They are wooing the African nation to get the support. Really, South Africans as well as African nations can sit and say, China wants us, the big power wants us. Now, everyone. Yes, Ananya?
Carlton, I just want to go back to a point you made earlier. I just want to reiterate it. The African continent is, of course, divided over the invasion of Ukraine. And specifically, Lavrov, just moments ago, he has said that when the West says that Russia is the main threat and China in the long term, it is a matter of mentality. Now, I want to ask you, you've been obviously talking about it as well. Russia and China specifically are kind of have been put in a spot right now by the West. Are they trying to see towards Africa in terms of more alliance, in terms of a front that they can put up against the West?
Yes, so basically, Ananya, during the introductory remarks time, Lavrov was very specific in mentioning that, because Naledi Pandor, who's the Minister of the Department of International Relations, as well as South Africa as a whole, who's also maintained a mutual stance on the Russia-Ukraine war, South Africa has always maintained saying, they must have a talk. They must have a peaceful dialogue and talks, between Russia and Ukraine. But that time, earlier today, when they had a discussion where Lavrov specifically mentioned they are, in fact, in favor of negotiations with Ukraine. They also want peace. They want, and in fact, he went on to date back to around September, October last year, stating that we wanted to negotiate with Ukraine, but some of the Western countries did not want Ukraine to have to sit down and negotiate with us. Now, putting South Africa as well as Africa on the spot, what we can say is China has been aggressively in talks with African countries. They have, in terms of, you talk in terms of investment, you talk in terms of anything. China, they have a huge sitting here in African continent. Russia, not so much. Russia still has, it doesn't even have 1% of Africa, it doesn't even hold 1% of total South Africa's trade to foreign countries. So in terms of trade, if you talk, Russia is still very small. But then when you look at the West, American officials, like I mentioned, the finance minister tomorrow coming here last year, American officials, important officials, a visit to South Africa has put South Africa as well as Africa in a map. Yes, you can say, Ananya, like you said, are they trying to find strategic partners in African countries? Yes, maybe, who knows? But at this given point of time, yes, South Africa has maintained a mutual stance. I specifically, personally, do not see South Africa changing its stance at any given moment. Last year, if you remember, South Africa also abstained itself from voting in the United States in favor of Ukraine. South Africa did not do that. And even today, Minister Naledi Pandor mentioned specifically saying they are in favor of, Russia and Ukraine having a mutual talk, but not ever in the last 1 year. Russia is now going to celebrate its 1 year anniversary since the invasion of Ukraine. Not once has South Africa said, we condemn Russia. So that is your stance at the moment, Ananya.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for all those insights, Carlton.